If you're thinking about moving to Noosa or somewhere on the Sunshine Coast, you need to know the pros and the cons of moving here. Through this video, I'm going to run through 5 of the pros and 5 of the cons so you know everything before you make the move. I'm Emily Barron, and I have personally moved up to Noosa and areas on the Sunshine Coast 3 times, and I was one of those Victorians that moved back. So you don't make some of my mistakes, I'm going to share with you the pros and the cons of living on the Sunshine Coast. Let me tell you, there are plenty of things you need to be mindful of if you decide to make the move to Noosa or the Sunshine Coast. I think one of the biggest cons of living in Noosa would be around about February, where it just seems to not stop raining. When it rains, I'm talking it pours. If you're driving and it starts being torrential rain, it is really can be quite scary. And you normally I have to stop the car because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to crash. Although it's not all the time, it's normally only a short period of time. However, every 10 years, there can be a flood, like what happened a few years ago. So it does happen that you can have them once every 10-year flood and be here for that. As long as you don't drive through a flooded area, then you're good. Number 2, biggest thing in my mind, and something that is definitely a con, would be the toads. I had no idea about these things. I'm from Melbourne, you don't have toads. I remember one day in my house when I was living in Barron, I looked outside and there was about 30 toads lined up looking in the window, and I was shocked and I was too scared to go outside. And they're all just staring at me. If you've got pets, you have to be careful of them, but you don't normally see them until the wet season, which is again around about February. All the toads come out. And then it does very much depend on where you live. If you're in an area where there's a lot of sprinkler systems or something like that's what it seems to be what they like in those times. And then other areas you don't really see them if it's more built up. But yeah, when I lived in Barron, I definitely saw a lot of toads. Worse than toads, snakes. Snakes are definitely a con. Around summer, again, this is when all the creepy crawlies come out. There are a lot of snakes. Not in all areas once again, but when I lived in Barron, that's probably the con of Barron, I must say, because I think Barron, I've met a snake catcher man, and he seemed to say that there are more snakes in Barron than anywhere else on the Sunshine Coast. If you don't like snakes, think about that if you move to Barron, because I saw a few when I lived there and they came out on my deck. I couldn't sit on my day bed. I was too scared that a snake was going to crawl up my back. Another thing you need to be wary of would be cockroaches. There's also a lot of cockroaches come around summer as well. So yeah, they're not that bad. You just have to make sure you have fly screens up, and they're not too bad, I don't think. Around the holiday time, you just have to be mindful of the fact that everybody wants to come up on holidays. So some of the beaches like the Mooloolaba, around there, it's very congested on weekends and on holidays. And also in Noosa, so going into Hastings Street, they have thought of things to help with this. There are buses that run everywhere that are free, so you can jump on those. You can park up a bit further, and just know when you're going in to allow time for that. And the beach is busier too. So you definitely a con. But you just have to work around it. Sometimes I live in Noosa Heads, so often I'll just go to, if I'm going out to dinner, I probably won't go down to Hastings Street as much. When it's peak times, I'd go down to other areas that are just out around it. A lot of people do commute actually, but I actually work in Brisbane at times because our head office is in Brisbane. So leaving on a Friday, that is when a lot of people are trying to come to the coast for the weekend, and you have to be very mindful of when you're leaving. So I don't normally leave after 2:00 actually. I'll make sure I leave earlier because I know there's going to be everyone wants to get down to the beach. So it's something to consider. Also, where you live, if you are commuting, you need to know that when you're considering moving up here. A lot of people think, I live in Noosa, but if they're commuting to Brisbane, that's a long way. You'd be much better off living somewhere like Caloundra, because it's not so far. It's actually very doable, and that's what a lot of people do. So people that normally move from Brisbane often would decide to live in Caloundra, and then because they know the area really well, and people from Victoria often move to Noosa, and they don't realise that it's far. It's far from Brisbane. So you have to really think about what job you've got to decide what location to live in. There was very much a limit to what you could do. But now Maroochydore has got so much going on and so many new companies moving in So there is a lot more opportunities corporate-wise, but there's still not as much as you would have in, say, Melbourne or Sydney or Brisbane City. However, there is a hell of a lot more corporate, but there's a lot, like the tradies love living on the Sunshine Coast because they're everywhere. Tradies just seem to be dominating. There's so many, that seems to be the main thing I see that people doing, but there's also people who are attracted to the Sunshine Coast. Often entrepreneurs have their own business. Tourism is big. Hospitality is huge. Also, so many people can work from home now. So that's another thing that's changed. So there is very much that a lot of companies, I've got a lot of people I know that their head office might be in Melbourne, but they can actually work from home now. And then they go back and forth, or Brisbane or anywhere. So it is very much, the world has changed. So there's not so many restrictions now to where you can live. So the congestion in Noosa would be definitely a con when it is the weekends or when it is the holiday time. Getting down to Noosa to find parking as well. Parking could be it's sometimes I've driven around there and it was peak time. Then I've gone, it's taken me 2 hours and then I just went home because I couldn't find a car park anywhere. That is rare. You normally do, but it just, if there's something on, you just have to check. Like if there's the triathlon on or there's something like that's when it's just over the top. Like it's just too busy and you just have to plan it. If you're going to go down there, leave your car up a little bit and catch the bus down or park it up on the hill and walk down. But you just have to be mindful of that when you're coming down to Hastings Street because it takes the joy out for sure if you're stuck in traffic and you can't get a car park. So there are countless reasons to live on the Sunshine Coast and Noosa, but these are my top 5 reasons why I think you should live on the Sunshine Coast. Number 1 would be that there are so many touristy things to do. Like even living here, you can always feel like you're away on holidays because there's so many. Or you could hire a boat, or you could go jet skiing, or you can go surfing. There's so many things to do, and you can feel like you're on holidays all year round. Whale watching, there's dolphins, there's so much you can do. It's fun and touristy whilst you're living here. Yeah. Camping is another big one. A lot of people that are really outdoorsy, that are into that type of lifestyle, there's so much to do because there's so many walking tracks to go on. There's camping. People have their 4-wheel drive and love beach. Going camping on the beach would be a big one. That's a very big draw card because there's so many places to go. So that's definitely, if you're a bit into adventure and wanting lots of outdoor, having a good outdoor lifestyle, then it's definitely a pro because there's so much to do here. So I think a pro of the Sunshine Coast, and one so many people are attracted to it, are the beaches. We are just totally spoiled for having beautiful beaches everywhere you go. So Mooloolaba has got a beautiful beach, Alexander Headlands. They are world class. I don't think you could really top them around the world. Hastings Street, that main beach there, the national park, I could go on because there's so many of them. We're just so spoiled for having beautiful beaches and the water is crystal clear. You have dolphins, you have whales if it's whale season. It's just, nature is beautiful on the Sunshine Coast. The next would be the weather. The good and the bad with the weather, but the good is that it is much warmer in winter. Winter doesn't drag on at all. It's actually nice in winter in the way that you can go down the beach and it's not really busy and it's not too hot. So it's lovely weather in those seasons, and that's what draws all the people from Melbourne and Sydney coming in that time of year because it is really nice weather. You don't get much rain at all. It's a beautiful climate. Another pro would be that there are really good schools. There's great schools around. So there's also value for money as well. Being from with the private schools, for example, like if you were to compare a private school in Melbourne compared to a private school on the Sunshine Coast, for one, the grounds are like some of the schools, if you walk around and the grounds are unbelievable and you're paying half the money of what you pay in Melbourne or Sydney. So that is definitely something that is a pro for living on the Sunshine Coast and moving your family. The education is great. There's also the lifestyle is very much why a lot of people move here. It's much more laid back. Most people that come up here are looking for that more of a laid back lifestyle and not being stressed out. So that's definitely one of the reasons I moved to the Sunshine Coast, was that laid back lifestyle. Everyone seems to be a little bit nicer. I think it's because they're not stressed out. And that would probably be one of my big pros. The other big draw card, just the community spirit. There's so much on all the time. So I think there's so many festivals and there's farmers markets and things to do. There's always something to do on the Sunshine Coast. So those are my pros and cons of living on the Sunshine Coast. There are plenty more that I could go on with, but you probably have other things to do, so I'll stop it there. But if you want to learn more, I'm Emily Barron, and I'm a buyer's agent on the Sunshine Coast. So if you're thinking of moving to Noosa or somewhere on the Sunshine Coast, feel free to reach out and we can set up a call and we can run through exactly what it is that you're looking for. I would love to help you find your dream home.